Well, here we are, a quite familiar spot. Me once more reading my journal of what I'm about to do, as essentially, I'm just missing one piece, right? Soft clay being the last item on my grocery shopping list. As my name is still 57 Batsibis, playing RuneScape for the very first time, and I'm currently going on a shopping run to save a prince. You know, the things you do. But as mentioned last time, thinking that there is just one item left means that we're pretty much done. It wouldn't be me if that was the case, right? Which brings me to the question at hand, where the hell do I find soft clay? Is it soft when I find it? And how do I even obtain it? And when it comes to resources and how to obtain them, there has always been one person very helpful when I had a question. And that's him right there. Good old crafting tutor. Given we're talking about clay, I simply ask him about pottery. And apparently all there is to it is getting my hands on some clay, getting it wet, and getting to work on a potter's wheel. Lots of things to get, but definitely answers one of my questions earlier. Even better was his advice to look for the barbarian's vest of Varrock, as they seem to be pretty keen on their pottery. I should look around there if I wanted to try it out. Technically not really interested in the pottery part, but the beginning of the clay might definitely be helpful, obviously. I'm definitely surprised that I instantly found some form of solution to my question, as I really had not the slightest clue where to start finding clay. So for once, things are looking up for me. I wonder why. Quick glance at the map confirms the barbarian's west of Varrock is in fact the barbarian camp I've been to before. So there we go, my pink skirt and I, off to obtain ourselves some clay. And given the fact that we are around barbarians, maybe this whole story becomes a bit more exciting than being a living shopping cart, but we'll see. So I'm taking the old familiar spooky route, and a little further we end up at a place where there is a lot of yelling. It's even all caps, and it must be really bad actually. Anyways, here we are, and one very familiar question comes up. Well, where do we begin? As I'm currently standing in the middle of a village with lots of chaos around me. There's people fighting to the death, while just next to it there's other people enjoying themselves some mining. And then there's this guy who's half naked, just taking it all in and enjoying the scenes, I guess. Unsure what I maneuvered myself into this time. So let's find out, I guess, as we have a job to do. Maybe someone here is able to tell me literally anything about clay, as at this point I have no idea where to start. First guy is pretty much just selling helmets. Not quite the clay I'm looking for, but once again, guess I now know that for the future. Maybe, I don't know. Or I just keep telling myself that so all of my journeys don't seem so useless. Again, time will tell, and maybe the main building answers my main question. Well, or it's full of people that I could potentially attack. And here I am not bringing my gear. What am I doing? Well, I'm walking efficiently now, as you know. There is one guy with a conversation option though, and a friendly conversation later, he starts attacking me. Which, funny enough, levels my HP. I'll take that. But I get the hell out of here. Not the place to find myself some clay, that's for sure. And once again, you know, emergency fish. Still very convinced of that, I have to say. Moving on. Well, I guess it's time to talk to that guy, who stares at me intensely and merely has some words of warning for me. Once again, leaving me slightly confused, as per usual. But maybe it's for the better to not deal with the flexing naked guy, I'm assuming. Right next doors, we're actually making progress. Well, somewhat. After talking to multiple people, being to multiple houses, and actually being almost beat up, at least the word pottery is now named for once. But clay is nowhere to be found. And I swear, I really tried. I went all the way up this tower, had a little bit of a barbarian history lesson, I think it was, and I definitely remember all of this. I then talked to another guy about traveling by boat. Very intriguing, but well, silly me, I didn't bring my axe, as apparently I need to cut this tree down in order to be able to do it. Yet another task for another time, I'm thinking. But this is clearly not helping. Okay, that was a horrible one, but I had to do it. Then I went to a maybe Spanish barbecue party, I'm guessing. I don't really know what this place here is, but I definitely don't understand any one of the people around here. That I'm sure of. Maybe also part of the barbarians, I guess. After a run of double checking every single house here, I find a suspicious hole. A topic that is definitely not my strongest suit, but this cave comes with a manual. I wish others did. Well, enough of that. Apparently this is the stronghold of security. Looks very not so secure to me actually. And the fact that you loot a, I guess, recent visitor visitor to then get the manual to this place. It might be another red flag maybe. And then after taking a look at the diary of the guy, I decide that this is simply too much text. The gist of it is though, it kind of tells me how his adventures went, and I'm assuming I have to then replicate that eventually. And once again, I managed to add another task to my tab rather than actually getting any of my current ones done. Isn't that beautiful? So I abandoned the cave for now, and I'm back here, making no progress at all, and even examining the most random rocks or looking all over the place on the map changes nothing about that fact. I even tried like in-game googling clay. That really doesn't work. In case you didn't know, I made some progress by confirming my suspicion that you are actually mining clay, as it shows up here in the mining tab visual through my erratic mouse movement, which is actually visualizing how I felt at this point, given that I had no clue where to go. So how about some good news real quick? I'm becoming a prayer god. But more important, I have another plan. If that is a good thing or not, well, we're about to find out, I guess. Step 1 is a good old reset back to where it all started, with the only difference, I have a few ideas of what to do in the future, I guess. I have to dye some capes, apparently, get revenge on these bandits for sure. Wanna try out boating by axing down a tree. Then there's that cave hole dungeon thing. And a bunch of you also told me that the bandit camp and my clue scroll from actually episode 1 that I definitely remember, yeah, I would have not forgotten about that, are connected. So exciting times ahead, I guess, but that doesn't help me right here, does it? Proceeding my plan, I get my pickaxe, as I have confirmed at this point that mining seems to be the solution, at least in some form or way. Further progressing my plan by simply going to the only mining site that I haven't quite checked out in the vicinity. Also, given the insane rate of my progression, I gave in and I paid 10 gold to pass here faster, because at this point I really can't be bothered, to be honest. And well, here we are. The first conversation is very enlightening, I have to say, and that's then where I started examining every single rock in here, to then also find out that these guys are rather aggressive, and the only thing I brought was a pink skirt yet again. Beautiful. I mean, it really is. I like it. But what I don't like is that once I reach the end of this mining site, I run into another dead end myself, and even examining random rocks as per usual wasn't changing anything about that fact at all. And I could talk about confusion once more, but that wasn't really what was happening this time, as technically I think I know what I would have had to do. That was a sentence. And I think for the very first time I've reached a point where me randomly trying things wasn't actually fixing it, and reaching that point forced me to do something unspeakable. So let's talk about it. I mean, it already starts with me paying yet another 10 gold. Not a great start indeed. And if this quest keeps on going, I can definitely see my riches dwindling away rather sooner than later. So we better get going. And where to? Pretty much the only place that even I, despite not even being part of this world for too long, automatically walk every single time, because I actually don't even know. There's just something about up here, it's cozy. And speaking of that unspeakable thing, I wanted my first time to be at a special place. If I already had to do it, might as well make it memorable. And yeah, that was the moment where, given my rough circumstances, I made the hard decision and engaged in social interaction. Like I spoke to another player. That's technically another human I'm speaking to. Incredible. Look what the game forced me to do. I cannot believe. I also couldn't quite believe the answer I got, as Grand Exchange is, well, I guess as easy as it gets, if I could use it. But you might remember that I am not yet able or allowed to do so. Also, I would actually just really like to know where does one get clay, which is happily ignored by my new friend. Guess he couldn't believe that someone was genuinely asking a question, rather than just, you know, wanting stuff for free. But to be honest, given my dire situation, what else than accept could I have done? To be honest, I was already amazed that I instantly found a person that was willing to help, so would be kind of rude to just dismiss that, I guess. Guess I was equally amazed as this guy who randomly witnessed this incredible moment in time where two people interacted with each other, apparently a groundbreaking sight. So I do as I was told and add the guy, which now increases my friend count to 2. And I for the love can't remember who the other person is. I genuinely don't know when I added that guy. Or why. Maybe it's the name, I guess. Anyways, this is also the moment where I learn about the beauty that is private messaging. I can definitely see that come in handy in the future. And I have to say, I only struggled a little bit with the mechanics of it, so that's also a step forward, I would assume. I've done worse with easier tasks before in this game, so once again, a proud moment. One definitive plus of the private messaging thing is, while we exchange life stories, the journey to the entrance of the big city was definitely much shorter. At least, I mean, it felt like it. Much more entertaining, I guess. I'm really liking this. And given how walking so far is definitely one of my main tasks in this game, which might be because of me personally, really, this is definitely good news. I even get a lifetime subscription to Newcomb's friend list. And oh look, he also offers me some. By the way, it took me forever to figure out that it means gold pieces. I was always very confused when people talked about GP in the chat, and I had literally no clue what the fuck that should ever be, especially as a League player. Anyways, after quickly missing my exit, I have to yet again blow off someone who just tries to help me. Thanks though. Just to find a guy already waiting right outside, him showing off a little bit real quick, but eventually he shockingly accepted my offer of I don't need the money. Him removing it made the game freak out really bad. I tried to give him something in return, but the game wouldn't let me give him a free coupon for the Alcarid market. I don't know why, but there it is. Soft clay. Technically, I still don't even know where to get it, but I have it. At this point, we sadly also part ways with Newcomb, but his help is obviously forever appreciated.
And all of that brings us to another critical moment. Not only is my voice a little different because COVID is fun, essentially put me out of contention for real life for like 2 weeks now. Absolutely amazing. But more importantly, it was that moment where I filled my inventory with a bunch of things that I've saved up from the past, because in the past I also was not able to trade with players. That was connected to the lockout of trading with anyone, which also means I am now able to trade with really everyone. And given that I have no idea how this works, I simply went once more with the trial and error approach. I just put in the gear that I brought, and I guess that puts it up for sale. Maybe. I have to admit, I obviously really have no idea how that works, but if anyone needs bronze gear, now's the time, I guess. I also have to note maybe that ever since I got sick, I haven't even played Runescape either, so I also have yet to find out what actually happened to my stuff. Exciting. Leaving all of that behind, I was eager to use the momentum of more progression maybe. Not only is being able to trade with other players a reasonably big moment in time, I guess, but I would be much happier if I could finally get this quest done. There is only so much running around and shopping that I can take. So given that I finally have all the required items, it was time to go. Go all the way back to Leela, reporting my success, hopefully. Or being hit with some more confusion as the conversation simply just ends, because I was still wearing the skirt. But I figured it out, don't you worry. At least so I thought, but the conversation is still the same. So here I learn about the power of reading. As the journal clearly states, it's not Leela that needs these things. I then paid the price for my inability to read, fair enough, as I could have avoided paying the money if I already took the right path coming from Varrock. But oh well. Water under the lumber bridge. Let's report to Osman instead, which further proves my inability to read, as he also doesn't give a shit. But before I can finally get some progress done, there is a beekeeper bothering me. Just can't catch a break here. But for once I have to play a minigame that is somewhat more up my alley, as all I have to do is the equivalent of that shape game you play as a 3-year-old in kindergarten, which then reassembles beehives. I think the game finally figured out my intellectual capabilities, essentially non-existent. So for once I'm released early, thank God. So I can finally go to the guy that actually wants to hear about my success, which once more is not this guy. As already mentioned, it's been a while, so the memories are fading, but I was sure the journal said to come here once I have everything gathered. But given that I tried to talk to every single person involved in this quest, maybe for once talking is not the way to get things done. So back to Leela it is, merely double checking whether I might have missed something. But I guess I could have figured myself that, given the theme so far, no one else is gonna move an inch to get anything done other than me. Fine, guess I'll just walk in there then. First thing I have to learn in here, I'm still not welcome. Equally like my first experience here, I'm instantly being beat up by a guy. But turns out, as soon as you enter the house, maybe they're not allowed in, kind of like a dog, I guess. The fighting stops instantly. Anyways, The ominous Lady Kelly. Pretty much what this is all about, as she's the mastermind behind all of this, stealing that guy in the cage there. Time for some conversation.
Let's find out who the real mastermind is, shall we? As I somehow managed through asking completely random questions that, as was planned, we get to see the key. And even, but only for a moment, I am allowed to touch the key, which obviously we use to make the imprint with the soft clay. Given that all of this went way too smooth, I don't know what to think of this, but we'll find out eventually. But for now, there's only one thing to do, and after barely making it out alive, we are walking. But given the amount of walking we've done so far, I mean, this is merely a fraction. I think that's okay. But this time, for real, let's talk to Osman. We give him the imprint with the bronze bar. He'll make a copy of the key and send it to Lila. And let me guess, by the time I'm there, miraculously, that key is already there. I'm starting to feel like this is one big joke, actually. Or they make me run back and forth so I keep paying the 10 gold. Clever business model, actually, if you think about it. But oh well, let's walk back. And you wouldn't believe, Lila gives me a key, together with some instructions of figuring out how we can get rid of the guard. Apparently there's a guard, and we know about that. So once again, by merely an inch, I make it into the house, unharmed somehow. And no one is questioning that I am now questioning the guy. My opening question of who is he guarding here definitely shows boldness or lack of strategy, really. I can't tell. After that ensues a somewhat of a psychology session, as he tells me about his childhood, his dreams and fears. A very interesting conversation. Well, you know the things you tell people that come in on your job randomly and you've never seen before. I don't see anything wrong with that. And after enjoying myself, whatever the hell these guys are doing there, or whatever that's supposed to be, we tell Leela about the psychology session, and we decide that getting him drunk is the way to go. Well, good old alcohol's always the solution, isn't it? Runescape is a very educational game, I see. Or you can kind of tell it's a British developer, I guess. Well, whichever it is, we gotta get ourselves some beer. Thank God there's a pub nearby, and we keep filling our inventory with more nonsense. Beautiful. Then we walk right back to the guard, and despite some initial hesitation, you know, as it usually is with people that don't want to drink, the guard drinks all the beer right here and there, which you can slightly tell in his somewhat changed articulation of words. At that point, I ask him if whether it was okay to rescue the prince or not. He doesn't seem to be convinced for some reason though. Well, okay, let's find out what's next. And haha, we have to buy some more stuff, as we have to get a rope now, because apparently we're roping Kelly. Great plan, fantastic, loving it. I wonder if the game at this point is merely taunting us, given that there's a rope shop legit right next to where Leela's standing, but okay. I might buy 2 of them. The rope guy then tells me that I could either buy a finished rope for 15 coins, or if I give him 4 balls of wool, he would make them for me. Yeah, there's no way that at this point I keep running around in this. No, just no. I also learned that if you right click and open the shop window of the guy and value the rope, it somehow costs 18 gold. I don't know why you ever would even do that, but don't. So moving on, once again, the conversation doesn't change, but I by now know what that means. We have to take matter in our own hands. I quickly inform Kelly that I'm here to tie her up and simply place her in a cupboard. Examination of the same confirms it's for storing things in. Glad we got that cleared up. What follows is a very bizarre moment as we open the gate right next to the guy, but I guess he was really drunk, currently daydreaming at the window. I once again inform the people why I'm here and what I'm doing, and without hesitation or questions really, the prince puts on the disguise, and yeah, we're kind of done here, I think. I must be really trustworthy looking that he just follows through on a plan where a complete stranger tells him to dress up as a woman. Conversation with the guard also confirms guy is still completely out of it, and with that, once again, there's but one thing to do. We are walking all the way back to where all of this nonsense started, and this time people actually want to talk to me. And surprisingly here we can make things relatively quick, as it's just thank you and here's your reward. And thank God, with 700 coins as a reward, this is at least making up for all of the endless shopping that I've done in the past hours. Don't really care about the quest points, I think, but the free gate might or might not make up for everything that happened. And with that, with a bit more detour than usually, but Sibis once again saves the day. Truth be told, it required a little help, but for the near future, I might distance myself from just going down that quest list, I'm sure. But during this journey, I found a few angles of what I could do next.